With us in studio this morning is Cook County Board Commissioner from the 16th District, and that would be none other than Frank Aguilar. Good morning, Frank. Welcome to the show. I should say Commissioner.
No, it's just Frank is good. Good morning.
How you doing?
Real good.
You made it in, huh?
Yeah, it is cold out there.
It is cold out there.
Yes.
There's no joke about it. You get in the car. If your car is parked outside, you get in and you get
warm it up right
away, and you sit there still and tight. So glad you were able to make it in. One of the things that you guys don't know about Frank is he's been doing this for a while. He has a pretty good understanding, not just as a Cook County Board Commissioner and working on different committees, but as a representative of folks in the community. Tell everybody about your kind of, as I say, ascent to where you are now as a Cook County Board Commissioner.
Well, I've been involved in politics since I was young.
That's what I'm talking about.
I lived in Cicero most of my life. Started as a union organizer at Central States Laborers Union. I used to organize unions back in the 80s. At the tail end of the labor movement, so I used to go undercover factories, and I melted plastic, I melted steel, I've cut vegetables and organizing unions through the inside.
Right.
And was a business agent for the union. Right. And that started, I guess, my political career without even knowing it. I was starting one.
Right.
I helped Jimmy Hoffa Jr. run for president. There's the Hoffa Hogan.
I remember. I'm old enough to remember.
And they wanted a few Latino organizers, and there was very few of us there. Yeah. So we put a campaign for him, and the Teamsters borrowed us. Yeah. To do some campaigning for him. So But that's basically my background. Before that, I was a seminarian. I was at Loyola. Yeah. So, yes,
So what's it like now? I mean, our Cook County, Cook County, for those who don't know, is the second largest county in America, behind Los Angeles County, which means that it carries a lot of weight on a lot of different levels, both not just politically, but in terms of population, in terms of the influence that so many people in our community don't know about. So your time as a commissioner, what would you say have been the top things that you've learned about the influence of the Cook County Board of Commissioners?
Well, we have a lot of responsibility. We're 5 million people in Cook County, and over 300 suburbs, including Chicago. We manage the health hospitals and the courts, the jail, the sheriff's department, the clerk's office, just a lot of agencies under the county, and then we provide funding for our municipalities. And it could go from projects to infrastructure, roads, projects that some mayors may have, or some aldermen or the mayor. So a lot depends on our funding and our management at some of these places. We also manage one of the largest forest preserve systems in the world, probably. We're very proud of it. So there's a lot that's involved in maintaining those. There's the tax. You heard about tax property, and that has a big issue. Lately. Yeah. But we manage a lot of things, and at the same time, we got to make sure we hear our constituents, see what their needs are. So a lot of folks, they hear of congressman and the senator and their mayor, but you don't really hear about what a commissioner does. There's different levels of government. You got the local, government, which is the mayor and aldermen and trustees. Then you have the state representatives and senators. Then you got the federal, Congress and senators. Well, where does commissioners fall in there? So we kind of I'm a commissioner. I'm before the state, before the feds, and before the state. So I'm in between. Right.
Well, and that's what I really appreciate about something you said in terms of our forest preserves. We have one of the broadest in terms of land mass forest preserve systems, and not really other areas call them forest preserves, but we have a system that is it functions well. You guys do a really good job of making sure that our forest preserves are clean, they're welcoming, they're inviting, and they are sustaining to our environment. And
absolutely.
When we had Commissioner Preckwinkle on a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that she talked about is how important that how important our forest preserves are from a utilization standpoint in terms of people walking and using them that way. And I've had a number of people that have said to me, I'm going to be walking the forest preserves now. I mean, this sometimes you don't think about what's right there, but also the environment. And that's one of the things I wanted to get with you on is how important the forest preserve system inside of our county is to our environment.
Well, besides there's a lot of activities that they can do, like kayaking and fishing and picnicking, but it's important. Especially, it was very I have to confess I rarely went to the forest reserve when I was younger.
Yeah.
Maybe picnicking, but lately I've been going over in the summer almost every week. It's experiencing nature.
Yeah.
And it took a very important part during COVID. We had an increase of families of people going to the forest reserve, because you could, if you were during COVID season, when it was a pandemic, you were told not to go in sections like the restaurants were closed,
Right?
Very social places were closed. So the best place you could be at is outdoors,
Yeah.
and be out in the sun. So we had a good increase and a good traffic with our forest reserve. So that helped. During the pandemic, people
Right.
went out. Instead, they couldn't go to their local restaurant
Right.
or concerts or even church.
Yep.
But you can go to the forest reserve and experience nature.
Yeah, and do all those things. You can have a cookout in a forest preserve. You can have activities. You can quote unquote. You can fellowship, whatever your faith may be, and that's one of the things that I saw happening. Quite a bit. I'm a little bit of a golfer. And I remember going to, not to play more, but I went to the driving ranges that are tied to some of the practice facilities more, because it was outdoors and it was the ability for me to take them on. Lots of people love walking and taking strolls through our forest, biking through our.
Yes.
That's another big one. Talk about that.
I started biking too. So I have a Schwinn, and I haven't used it in years. And I started using it now. So kind of like I discovered, hey, there's bike trails. They go pretty far.
Yeah.
It's just when I was bicycling to the forest, there's so much to see.
Yeah.
There's so many species of animals.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it.
You're right up on something. Wait a minute.
You stop by and look. You just take a look at the horizon of the rivers and the forest, and listen to the birds.
Yeah.
But it's very reflective. It's very nourishing.
Yeah.
Experiencing nature.
Without a doubt. Let's talk a little bit about some of the two biggest issues right now that in Chicago and the metropolitan area are targets for, and that gets into the conversation around deportations. At the same time, the conversation around federal funding. But talk a little bit about, if you can, or to the extent that you can, how you're trying to navigate the deportation conversation that we're having right now. What are how's this impacting you, maybe personally and professionally at the same time?
Well, there's an enormous amount of fear. I live in a very large immigrant community district, mainly Cicero, Berwyn, Melrose Park, Summit, North Lake. And I eat out a lot. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends that own restaurants. And when that was announced that they're going to go out and deport people, again, enormous, a lot of fear. Many people didn't show up to work. Kids didn't show up to school. Parents were scared. So it caused a bit of a chaos. So before the president took office, about a month before, my office had a training, about 40 different community-based organizations on Know Your Rights. And I have to credit the Resurrection Project that kind of spearheaded it for me. And I had it at the Teamsters. My next tournament, I have a Teamsters Union Hall. And I couldn't fit the folks in my office, so I had to use their Union Hall. And I had quite a bit of over a couple hundred people show up. And we had trainings, train the trainer.
Right.
And we have a large coalition with other elected officials. They did the same thing. And then we got a coalition with ICER, the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, Rincon. I can just name a few, PASO, a lot of nonprofit agencies, community-based organizations. We got together. The structure was there already.
Okay.
It was developed back in 2016. We just had to awaken it up and build that safety net. So we started with this Know Your Rights campaign and inform families, folks, what they have to do. They have rights. Many undocumented residents didn't know they had rights, and they do.
Yeah.
Civil rights.
That are built into our Constitution,
exactly.
irrespective of where you came from. It's once you're here, we've got this thing that says, all right, we're going to do our best to make sure that you're safe and protected. And here's what the law says.
Exactly. We use the law as a weapon against any there's any injustice. So we started this campaign, and I had a good a Facebook Live, and I had professionals just alerting people what to do. Our campaign was, I would say, successful because the person in charge, I guess they call him the czar. I don't know why they call him the czar.
We're going to get to him in a second.
He complained. So I went to Chicago, and they're hiding and blah blah. And well, you know what? They used the law.
Yeah.
We didn't tell them to hide.
Right.
We just told them what their rights are.
Yeah.
And I guess that bothered them. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I'm gonna keep it clean, Frank. But I'm sure that you and I were sitting with the bottle of beer and a cigar, we'd have some fancy words that we could use.
Yes.
But we're gonna keep it clean, y'all. So the person who he's speaking about is Tom Homan, this so-called border czar. And it's the minute that you said that, I had already written something down that I want to get to, because I'm concerned for folks like you that are in a role as a Cook County Board Commissioner and others that are working to make sure that these alliances are there and people know that they have rights and how to exercise those rights. And I just have to ask you, so he just came out over the weekend and said that he was going to go after ALC, Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for talking to people about their rights. Well, part of being an elected official is to do just that as a representative of the people. So help me in your mind where you are with that.
She's a brave woman. I admire her. Well, bring it on. I mean, we're not doing nothing illegal. We're just informing people of their rights.
Yeah.
This is the United States. I mean, the Constitution is probably a brilliant piece of literature.
Yeah.
That they developed over 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that? If he doesn't like it, it's just too bad. I mean, that's...
Well, one of the things that I'm really proud of for folks like you, Frank, as a commissioner, and Ms. Preckwinkle and all the rest, and governor, other state officials, our mayor of the city, going back to COVID, I've said this and I'm going to say it again. You guys that were in those roles, were it not for you and your leadership, COVID would have been much more damaging to our community and to our state. I applaud you. I applaud the governor. I applaud Ms. Preckwinkle. I applaud our mayors that navigated. And y'all don't agree on everything, and we know that, and that's cool because then we actually get something done when we don't agree on everything, because we find out what's the real best thing for all of us.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I mean,
there wasn't a
but y'all got
handbook.
stuff. Y'all got stuff done when it came to COVID.
Yes.
Which was so incredibly impressive. And here we are again in this next crazy phase of, the Trump administration doing crazy, stupid, borderlining illegal things. But you guys have come together again.
Yes.
And said, not here, not on our watch, and not through us. So let's talk a little bit about how you guys have had to navigate an imperfect scenario and a lot of brain, a lot of thought, but then to say, we have to come together.
Well, we just have to do the right thing for the people of the county, to protect them, inform them. And like back in COVID, and with this immigration issue, it's not a cookbook that says do it yourself. I mean, we learn as we go along. And there's a problem, we tackle it. We come together. And in other areas, we may disagree in other issues, but when it comes to, we feel threatened. Mm-hmm. So COVID was a threat. Now these deportations are a threat. I understand we're going after the criminals, fine.
Yeah.
Who wants them? If they're a threat to our society, take them. But leave the working folks alone. So that's where we were focusing more on family, on children, working folks.
Yeah.
Undocumented residents generate billions and billions of dollars. Like he's like billions and billions, like he says it.
Yeah. I know.
They generate billions of dollars in our economy, and they don't receive very little to no benefit at all. In my district alone, undocumented residents generate over $400 million, and they do the work that Americans don't want to do.
Right.
They cook in restaurants, they sweep, they mop, they do all the grunt work, clean bathrooms, the landscapings, just hard labor work. That and I, being a former union organizer, most of the labor force in our country are immigrants.
Yeah.
And they do the hard work. They make sure that your food's on your table, vegetables, make sure that the hospitals are clean. And these disinfected.
This is the thing too. When you say that, it's one of those comments that have been out there that the right has used, unfortunately, with precision, and that is that the Mexicans are taking your jobs, the immigrants from the southern border are taking your jobs, blah 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 blah. And so I look at that and say, if they were, they're doing a pretty damn good job of the efficiencies in those jobs. And I go there just to make a point. Okay, if that's the case, they're doing a pretty good job of it. So why do I want to mess with that if it's not negatively impacting our communities? And I will always stand on that because I think that's the truth.
Well, like COVID, immigrants were in the front line of COVID, of the infection.
Yeah.
Cleaning hospitals, cleaning schools, cleaning buildings.
Yeah.
Exposed to the virus, and they got it done.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk into a clean hospital, thanks to these immigrants who keep it clean.
And and folks got to understand this. Listen, everybody's. One of the things that Frank said that has to be repeated over and over and over and over again daily is community and alliance. We all know, if we're being honest, that all of us of all communities make this thing work.
Yes.
Whether you're Mexican or other Latino communities, whether you're Black and other African, Black American and other African immigrant.
Yes.
Continental countries, if you're from other parts of the world and you've migrated to the United States, we all make this thing work.
Yes, and we have Afro-Mexicans in Veracruz.
And by the way, for those that don't know, you should know. You should look at the as we're in Black History Month. That touches all communities.
Yes.
And the history touches all. And I say this I've been saying this every week. My Black History moment every week, Frank, has been Black history is American history.
Exactly.
Latino history, Mexican history is American history.
Absolutely.
And y'all need to stop lying to yourselves about not having recognitions of histories of our communities. Because that's a slap in the face, whether you know it or not, to your own country. But that being said, that's a cigar and glass of beer conversation from me and Frank.
They should listen to a speech given by Ronald Reagan, a Republican. His last speech as president of the United States about immigrants. So they can look it up.
Yeah.
I really tell my, especially people who are very conservative, listen to his speech.
Yeah.
And he talks about the vitality and the contributions that immigrants have brought to this country. That's who built this country.
Yeah.
Slaves built it back, brought it in, and then immigrants came afterwards. And they've contributed largely to our economy, culture.
Right.
I mean, just name it. We're a melting pot, and we're forgetting that.
We do.
Unfortunately, we're forgetting it.
And let's talk a little bit about the conversation around federal funding issues, because I know that, on the state level, we've got a lot of things that we sometimes what's the word I want to use, Frank? We look at blue states and red states and how much money blue states provide to the federal budget and that get back versus what red states provide to the federal budget versus what they get back. As a county commissioner, let's talk about how you've been navigating what these cuts are and how they are going to impact us.
Well, there is a critical component of federal funding that we received, and we're watching it. We're very concerned about it. We're collaborating with different levels of government, federal, state, local. We have been very thoughtful. Our ARPA funding money that we have to spend by 2027. The president in her budget, she's did a good job making sure that there's enough funding for the next couple of years. So managed to maybe cut back a few areas, make some difficult decisions, but stretch that money that can lapse over and continue some of the programs, especially when it comes to healthcare, housing, and serve the most vulnerable. So that was her priorities. She's done a very good job in the last over 10 years. I mean, it's a $9.5, $9.9 billion budget, and we haven't raised no taxes in the last over 10 years. I mean, I have to really credit her, President Tony Porprenko, did a good job in making sure that she focuses on what's the real needs in our community, priorities, the most vulnerable, and keep a balanced budget without putting the burden on the taxpayer.
Right.
Takes a lot of knowledge and experience and a lot of patience to do that, and a lot of conversations with department heads. So you got to give her a lot of credit. We're keeping an eye on it, and there is a concern. And I read somewhere that some of the red states were cut back on their education system. So in the red states, well, deal with it now.
Yeah. What do you think about this thing, Frank? And I know there's so many things that we will talk about, and we will have you back again maybe next month. But you've heard this. Some of the area, there's some areas in Illinois that have been teased with the idea of becoming part of the state of Indiana. You've heard that circling out there. Talk about that a little bit.
It always, we're going to be part of Indiana. We're going to be part of Mexico. We're going to be part of Canada. There's always talk like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt it very much. I think it's just an expression of anger.
Yeah.
And it goes away.
Yeah.
Even some of my mayors in Cook County talk about, we're going to annex, this little town away from Cook County, and you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's just they're just venting. I mean, we're going through some serious situations now with our federal government. Some concerns, cutbacks. They might be probably coming. Hopefully not in areas that we really need, like healthcare, education, some of the basic needs. He's trying to change laws that have been, debated for the last 200 years. I mean, look, it took 200 years to put the laws that are in place right now. They didn't just come about.
No.
Presidents did not just come up with it. Let's do this executive order and change this law. Going through Congress, went through the process. This individual is just putting out these executive orders. Doesn't like it, put executive order. Denying birthright to being an American. I mean, that's very un-American.
Very.
And then her spokesperson said and I can quote this because she does this. She says this. She said that the birthright is unconstitutional, being a citizen. Well, any lawyer that accepts the denial of birthright citizenship should be disbarred.
Yep.
It says it clearly in the Constitution.
Nope. It's not vague. It's clear.
It's clear.
It's very clear.
So, things like that, and then his fight with Canada, with Mexico, with China. I understand. Keep the tax dollars in the United States, and put priorities in our country. But there's a way. A leader establishes a bridge with countries, communication, and you come up with mutual benefits for both of us. It's a shame that he's caused tension and enemies in a very short time.
Yeah.
What
do you think? Again, I'm not one to put people on the spot about things, but I do want to get your observations on this. As you go forward in your role as commissioner, what do you think are going to be your top items that you want to get done and make sure that you're leaning into and can become effective with?
Well, when I first came aboard back in 2020, that was the height of COVID.
Yeah.
Besides COVID being the top of of the item, I made it, I'm a precinct captain. I like going door to door and events and just talk to folks. That's where I get my information. Talk to, the people who are living and, renting apartments, paying the mortgage, sending the kids to school. That's where I get my information, and I keep very close, conversations with the mayor. Infrastructure, flooding is a big issue. The biggest investment in residents making Cook County is their home. And when you get these major floods, if a storm comes, people just cringe. Yeah. And just the damage that is caused on these houses. I mean, they lose value. But there's a backlash to that. There's not just the flooding and the damage that the water causes in their basements. It also, it causes mildew, mold and mildew, bacteria, which can affect your lungs, cause pulmonary diseases. So there's a health issue involved with flooding. So flooding is a big issue. Infrastructure, economic development, support small businesses. Mm-hmm. And going back to immigrants, a lot of immigrants own their own businesses. I know several, they're undocumented, that own grocery stores, restaurants, and they employ hundreds and hundreds of people. They contribute, tax dollars. So support our small businesses. That's the backbone of our neighborhood economy.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where I see this administration attacking. It's not just attacking our immigrant community. It's attacking our economy.
It is.
The fabric of our economy.
There's no doubt about that. Last question or thought. What do you, if you're putting out a thought to people that are concerned, whether they be someone that's in the immigrant communities per se or not, just in general, people that are supporting progressive democratic thinking, what's your words of encouragement or words of I guess let's just say encouragement to give folks as we wrap up?
Every time I wake up, before I go to work, I always tell myself, what am I going to do today to improve someone's life? Whether it's seeing a homeless person on the street, buying them a drink, a sandwich, feeding them, or helping someone, whether it be, doesn't matter how small their problem is or how big. When a person is facing a problem, it's a big problem for that person. It may be a little one for you, but it's big for that person. Mm-hmm. Maybe just listen to them. That could be just, listening could be just good enough. They want somebody to talk to. Mm-hmm. So that's my philosophy. What am I going to do today to make someone's life a little better than yesterday? And that's the beginning, sense that mindset, and make things happen for your community, for your constituency, and make life a little better. They call that progressive. Well, yes, it's progressive. Nothing wrong with that. Trying to make someone, our job as public servants is to make people's life better, better than yesterday. And that's our job. Listen to them, what their needs are.
Yeah. Frank Aguilar, Cook County Board Commissioner in the 16th District, one of our local folks that's having a huge impact on our community, immediate community surrounding, and frankly, the nation because of the impact that our area has on the rest of the country. So, Frank, thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate your wisdom and your effort and your commitment to the community.
Well, thank you very much.